My classmate in high school was ugly, but girls were obsessed with him, and he had them eating out of his hand like pigeons because he treated them badly and used the oldest, most reliable trick to create psychological obsession. He used unpredictable rewards. Let's see how it works and what he did. The Harvard psychologist Skinner put a seed dispenser in a cage for pigeons. He trained them so that every time they pecked a button, they got a seed. That's called constant rewards. You press the button, you get food. Press it again, get another seed. The pigeons figured it out and only pecked the button when they were hungry. So far, so good. But then Skinner changed the setup. He reprogrammed the button so that pressing it was like flipping a coin. Sometimes it gave food, sometimes it didn't. Maybe you pressed it once. Nothing. Pressed it again. Still nothing. Then the third time, boom. Seed. What he discovered was that the pigeons started behaving obsessively. They no longer pecked just when they were hungry, they pecked more. Then Skinner made the button even worse. It started working less and less. First, it gave seeds every time, then 1 out of 3 times, then 1 out of 10. The pigeons had to work harder for their food, and they got more and more obsessed. They'd peck the button like crazy, even when they weren't hungry. Eventually, he set it so the button only worked 1% of the time, and the pigeons went totally nuts. They pecked at 150 times a minute for 16 hours straight, until they either dropped dead or passed out from exhaustion. What the ugly dude from my high school did with girls was way too similar to what Skinner did with his pigeons. There are 2 key points. First, no pigeon would get obsessed with a button that never worked in the first place. They wouldn't care about it. What drove them crazy was that it used to work, and once they got used to that, it stopped working. Same thing with the girls. No pretty girl would fall for a guy who was mean from day one. But he didn't treat them badly right away. My cousin was one of his victims. At first, she swore up and down she'd never give that ugly guy a chance. But he was persistent. Every day, he'd bring her a little gift. Sometimes he'd stop by her house. He'd always send her a good night message. My cousin got used to his constant attention. She wasn't into him at first, until one night, he didn't send the good night message, and that was the first night she went to bed thinking about him. Just like Skinner made the button stop working and the pigeons went crazy, my classmate slowly changed his behavior. He gave her less and less attention, and my cousin started losing it. She couldn't understand why he was acting differently. Sometimes he'd forget to say goodnight. Sometimes he didn't stop by her classroom or bring her anything. She didn't get why her little attention dispenser had stopped working. She had gotten used to being kind of cold with him, but now she was the one texting first, and he'd take longer and longer to reply. Sometimes he just left her on read. Things got worse and worse. She became more and more desperate for his attention, and he cared less and less. I remember her saying,
"And the worst part is, he's so ugly."
In the end, my cousin completely lost her mind. She texted him even when he left her on read. And when he left her on read, she called him. Once she even went to knock on his door. She's gorgeous. Just like all his exes and like so many girls from our school. Left totally wrecked like pigeons, hooked on a button that used to give attention, then became unpredictable and finally stopped working. Now, this kind of trick does work, but only in the short term. If you want a woman to truly admire you, there are no shortcuts. You need to focus on your habits. This book isn't cheap, but man, I wish I'd had it before I turned 30. It shows you how changing just a few key habits, if you're consistent, can help you build a great body and get your finances on track. And you realize you can trust yourself. You don't need psychological tricks to win anyone over. The book is called Atomic Habits, and in this video, I'll show you how to download it for free.